I hope everyone's doing well and welcome back to another weekly outlook, one of the last ones of the year. I don't think we've missed a week this year, which is very. I mean, I don't miss a week the year before either, but this whole year has been publicly posted for you guys to see all the trades we've put out, all the things we wanted price to do, what actually took place, what didn't, all the reasoning behind it, and like I will touch on this more, and I'm planning to make a few separate videos in terms of what people can do over that little Christmas break and in terms of using data evaluation, blah blah blah, which I do every year, anyways. But I hope for a lot of you guys, especially the ones that found the channel this year, that it's giving you a proper insight into what trading actually is, at least on a week to week basis. And where we're swing trading, that is what sort of mattered more this year. Whereas last year, when it was a much more, day trading focused, you'd get a sort of glimpse into, this is what we want on price, but you wouldn't get the full insight of, okay, this is how we're hunting price. Whereas with the swings, it's been a lot simpler, right? You guys have probably seen it this year. It's just a lot of waiting for premiums, discounts, OTs, and whatnot. But yeah, I hope that's been helpful. But anyways, yeah, let's get into the weekly outlook, right? I believe this is number 50 probably for the year. Yeah, probably is 50. But cool. So we do expect prices to start slowing down. I would assume that this is the last week where we get any sort of decent or solid movement. Coming up is staring at us in the face. We have the FOMC this week on the Wednesday to watch out for. There's not much going on today on Monday when I'm publishing this. There's not anything crazy on the Tuesday apart from the change in ADP from last week, I believe. I'm not sure why this is taking place. We have JOLTS job openings as well to watch out for. If you come over to the Thursday, unemployment claims for the dollar. We also have this to watch out for the CHF. And I believe there was one more. Where did we go? Yep, so it's the Canadian central bank as well, putting out their rate, and the Japanese bank as well, which is speaking tomorrow, and then of course the Australian dollar. So probably one of the last jam-packed weeks. If you look at next week, there is quite a few folders, but I would assume that everything will slow down quite a bit. This week will be about essentially a week before Christmas. And a lot of people will be coming off work, and institutions and whatnot, at least the big ones, will be sort of shutting down for the Christmas period. Let's get into it. Okay, so we had a position that got stopped break even on EU. If you guys remember, we spoke about that last week. And you guys can see I've sort of marked out this range of price. If we get rid of this for a second, what we can very clearly see is that this is sort of sideways. You've got the daily range, prices sort of come, just above it, right? This is like a telltale sign of consolidation sometimes, right? It had a very shallow sweep and then it's gone and hunted the other side. Now we've sort of stalled here. We've not done much today and we didn't do much on the Friday or the Thursday, but the Wednesday and the Tuesday did have that large reversal move, right? So what do we expect from price here? What do you want to see price do next? As a bare minimum, right, we want to mark that previous weekly low up. We want to see that get swept. Now we are sitting inside a bullish order block and we have just retraced into this range and we've swept some internal liquidity. So what is the case here? Do we continue being bearish or do we get a reversal? Now, I'd still be hoping for a reversal on DXY. I don't think we are done just yet. When I say reversal, I don't, think of anything special. I'm not saying, we're going to sweep this and we're going to skyrocket to these highs. Eventually, I do want to see these highs get targeted. I do think they'll get swept. Overall, next year, we, again, I'll touch on this in more detail later, but we do expect to be bearish, right? We expect the DXY or the US dollar to cut rates, and therefore the sort of larger time frame and the long-term trend should be bearish. Now, what I expect leading up to that run and preparing us for next year is that price will continue to consolidate. We're not going to get any major expansions. So in the short term, if this is going to be a consolidation, we have swept liquidity, we have hit a high time from PD array. So the likelihood is that from an area like this, you'd expect a reversal the other way. Even if that reversal, what we could simply do, let's assume that we think the consolidation is from this low to this current high. This is our sort of consolidation range per se, yeah? And we come and sweep this low, maybe even this low. So now you're deep into the discount. So if this is a consolidation, what do you expect from that deep discount? Probably a reversal to the other side. So if we did catch a trade somewhere here, if we did manage to get in a position, then you know you would simply look to ride that towards this premium, and then when you get in the premium and we're hitting some sort of premium rate that we can reverse off of, or you know you're sort of deeper in the premium, then it's probably time to get out of that move, let it be, see, you know, it might carry on, or you know it might, again, what you expect in consolidation is reverse the other way, right? That's the sort of way that I would approach it. Now, of course, that's very optimistic, hoping that we do get a trade. We may not get any other, you know, solid moves for us to hit. Now, US 10-year still very consolidated, even on the weekly, very, very tight. I think it's coiling up. You know, if it doesn't come and push the highs here, and if it reverses from here, then I would expect you get a very, very classic, you know, this sort of triangular consolidation where it'll just keep coiling up, getting tighter and tighter till it hits that sort of apex, and then it's ready to move. But yeah, nothing interesting there. Euro GBP is a big one. Big monthly wick. Come down this month so far, swept the previous monthly low, traded into that sort of discount we had marked down into the consolidation. So now the question becomes, you know, do we trade higher, or is this the high put in? It's hard to say. It's hard to say from where we are right now. If it is the reversal, then we'd like to see a bigger kick down. We want to see something sort of confirmed, that see the order flow actually change. To me, for the time being, I still stand by what we had last time, that this is accumulation, this is manipulation into that consolidation and discount, and I would still expect the distribution this way before a potential larger reversal downwards. Euro USD. Okay, so I've taken the positions off, which is fine. But essentially, this first high over here, I believe, was roughly our break-even point. You know, of course, you guys can see that's been tapped out, and we've also pushed the next buy side liquidity, which sort of lines up with what the DXY has done as well. And you guys can see this is a horrible chart, right? In sort of, you know, now it's in hindsight. If I look at this weekly chart and I was planning to catch a swing, I don't think that this is anything amazing. This is extremely choppy. This is clearly a consolidation. We can mark the range out as potentially from this low to that current high. And even within that, we've just been very, very tightly sitting in that middle sort of 50% of this range, right? And, you know, if I was sort of coming on here from scratch and deciding, do I want to trade this pair, I would probably reconsider, right? But of course, the trades we took at the time were very reasonable, and we had reason to believe that, you know, we've made a good high here. You know, we've displaced down. We had these ranges that we call OTEs off of, and we expected price to continue, which is perfectly fine. And even then, even though we did get stopped out, it's only at break even. We've not, you know, taken a major loss by any means. We managed the position well. So what do we expect for EU? It's that similar principle, right? If we're in a consolidation, we're sort of pushing the premium. Logically, you know, we may dig a bit deeper, but eventually you want to see it reverse the other way. And once it gives that confirmation of the reversal, is where something may lie for us to sort of get involved with potentially, right? Keep eyes on USDCAD as well. This week they have the interest rate decision coming up. It's had a big move last week. It's actually even given what I'd say is potential opportunity. Anyone who was watching the chart very closely, I believe, which day am I looking for? So on the Thursday, previous daily high sweep, I moved down, and on the Tuesday, previous daily high sweep into a fair value gap, and then moved down. So if anybody managed to get in these moves to sort of target this low, then that would have been a solid setup. It's something that wasn't really on my radar. I missed myself. And this, as you guys can see, is kicked past that very, very hard. Now, the only sort of thing that puts me off of continuation here is, right, that to me, this could be a very classic market maker sell model. I really like this reaccumulations, you know, tight consolidations that we can target, move up into the premium, reversal, and then a big push down. Only thing is, if we're expecting the reversal on the DXY, which logically may be pending, then it sort of makes this a less high quality trade. What I would say is, okay, my monitor just went blank. Anyways, we're back. What I would say is that if we expect price to push lower, right, in this scenario, what we can do is really let this sort of news pass here, and it may kick hard, right? This news may give us a kick, but it will put you in a better position where if this is a market maker sell model, you don't have to catch the top of the market maker sell model. You know what the target is. The target is this. We could even argue that it's this. So if at any point this move down we can get involved, then it's not bad, right? So that is what I would keep my eyes on for now. This is not a bad chart by any means. It's a very solid chart. If we get retracement into the zone, and then the interest rate decision comes up, and we have very solid reason and technicals to believe that's going to head lower, then it is probably something that we can consider hitting, right? I believe we have CHF news this week as well, and JPY, so literally all three of them. Yeah, not something I'm really going to cover. Just completely consolidated, not much to work with, nothing clear to target or do on this pair. Not something I would consider at least for this time being. JPY, we expected the market to make a buy model, right, which is a bit conflicting with our USDCAD trade, but we expect a buy model to this high and potentially past it. Still stick by that. This week we expected, or rather the previous week we expected an IO Fed from this fair value gap. It's given, it's closed inside. It's not given anything too crazy. On the 4 hour, it's not really displaced away, but what we can see is we've engineered some good trendline liquidity. If price gives a nice kick here on the 4 hour, it definitely is not a bad chart to look for that move higher, especially if the DXY starts turning around as well. Gold. Yep, very, very consolidated last week. Literally, this is the Monday. From the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just all sideways, not much to add. Last week we spoke about potential retracement. That retracement still not come, so the sort of outlook doesn't change here. Just because it's consolidated, if anything, it gives us reason to believe, then it might come and sweep the lows, hit this discount, and then head higher. That's still the sort of thing that I would be looking for, especially now that we have previous weekly low and this weekly fair value gap to target. For S&P, expected a very bullish week last week. Instead, we ended up with major consolidation without pushing for the highs. So what could we expect here? I wouldn't be surprised if we get run on this on previous weekly low to then push higher. At the moment, there's nothing interesting to work with, but that is the only thing I would look for. I wouldn't really long it from here. I know the targets are very much in reach, but for me, it's a 50-50. It can come sweep and then head higher, or it might just push higher and then later it comes and sweeps this sort of internal liquidity, right? But it is very consolidated, so if we did get a run lower here, it would make for a very textbook A, M, and then D to head higher. That's what I'll be watching. And lastly, big Bitcoin. So so last week is close sweeping that week, and then pushing a bit, or rather sweeping both sides, right? And we're in a very, very, very deep discount here. For us to consider a reversal, we need to see very, very solid displacement. At the moment, I would argue that this is consolidated. It's just all about perspective sometimes. Somebody could argue that this is a bit of a reversal. I would say, if we mark it out like this and this, what we see is price is just in a range, and we're coming from a very deep discount. So that essentially leaves us in a very ambiguous position. It can go either way. It might kick higher, sweep, and then head lower, or it might even come down, head lower. So what confirms for us that, okay, this might be a reversal, we're headed higher? Displacement. A clear kick out of this, right? For you to think, okay, you know what, I've got an anchor, I've got a big range here, it's pushed higher, you got a good weekly close, a good daily close maybe, then we can consider, okay, yeah, we might get higher prices. But for the time being, it's not in a great spot. It's very hard to tell what we want price to do, and it does have the ability to essentially just go either way. But yeah, guys, that is it for the weekly outlook. As usual, anything I can help with, just let me know.